computer. Hi, Autism Masterminds. Today it is just me, Vanessa. Melinda is home with her daughter, Paige. So we would love to welcome in Laura Hirsch. Her and her son, Trevor, wrote a book together called More Than Meets the Eye. So Laura, we'd love to hear, yes, love it. Love to hear a little bit more about your background and what inspired you guys to write this book.
Okay, well, thank you for having me. And I don't know, where do I start? So my son Trevor, the co-author of the book, is 25. He'll be 26 next month. And he was diagnosed with autism, regressive autism, when he was 3 years old. He was not born with autism, and he regressed after his 1 year vaccinations. I think I'm comfortable saying that on your show.
Same
And
story.
he had 60 words before he was a year old. He walked and talked, pointed, did all the things that kids are supposed to do ahead of schedule. And then he regressed, but we did a lot of therapies over the years. You name it, we did it. And he regained a lot of his health back and skills, but he never regained his speech. And he did ABA, and he gained, was able to sit for long periods of time and, had canned language, but he never was conversational like a lot of our kids.
Yeah.
So fast forward, when he was 21, he started trying to do piano lessons and singing, and he was really good at it. He learned his favorite song when he was a kid was Puff the Magic Dragon. And I said, if he can learn to play and sing Puff the Magic Dragon, that would be a miracle. And he did it and it was once a week lessons. And then we got our own piano. It's a Clavinova. So has pre-recorded songs on it. And one of them was Puff the Magic Dragon. So it played like the accompanying background music, but he was reading the notes. He'd played it and sang it together. I just bawled when I first heard him. I'm like, I can't believe he can sing. And at the time, I worked for a functional neurologist, Dr. Gates, who did the forward for the book. And he came to watch him one time, and he was just like stunned. And I said, how can he sing songs but not talk? And he said, it's a different part of the brain.
Yep.
And so that made sense. And then about 2 years after he started playing piano and singing, I read the book Underestimated by J.B. Hanley and Jamie Hanley about spelling to communicate. And a friend brought me the book the same day I watched the video of Jenny McCarthy and JB. So I read it, I bawled the whole time, and I said, I know he can do this. If he can learn to play the piano and sing, he can learn how to do this, and I'll do whatever it takes to get him his voice back. And within a short time, we started doing Zoom lessons remote with someone in Southern California, and once a week. And then I worked with him myself. I was his CRP, his communication partner, and he became open pretty quickly, actually. And then he's the one who asked me to write the book with him.
I love that. I love that part. That's so beautiful.
I was an author prior to writing this book, so he must have known. He's in there. He's been there this whole time. He's been paying attention. He remembers everything. So when he asked me the first time, I said, name an altruistic thing you'd like to do? And he said, I want to write a book with you. And I didn't start right away. And then again, I asked him another thing, like, name something you want to accomplish in your life. And he said, again, I want to write a book with you about my life to inspire others. And that's when it got real. And I was like, oh my gosh, he really wants to do this. And I said, well, what would you name the book? And he spelled the title, More Than Meets the Eye.
So he is the one who titled the book and is the powerhouse behind it coming into fruition and reality. And I love that. Our kids, like my son is a speller, Melinda's daughter is a speller. These kids are in there and they have so much to say. And yeah, it is the different parts of the brain that control the it's really a motor issue, right? So the part of the brain that controls being able to sing is very different than the part of the brain that allows us to speak verbally and meaningfully. So that's what I loved when I learned about spelling, is that whole part was fascinating. I'm like, that makes so much sense. The receptive is working, it's the expressive and the motor. It really is a motor issue for our kids. So yeah, so did you guys, do you want to speak a little bit to the process of bringing this book to fruition? Because I know there had to be some, challenges, different things that happened along the way.
Yeah, well, because I was an author before, I know what I need to do to write a book. And it's basically when he was eating, he eats pretty slow, and taking his bath, I'd try to get 5 pages done a night. And a lot of it was just going back and looking at the old videos of the timeline, the chronological order of everything, and just getting that in there with the music first, and then the spelling to communicate. And then the final chapter is about, I call it the divine messenger, but some amazing things that he talked about after he learned how to communicate, which we'll get into that, I'm sure.
That I love how you broke it up into that, because the music really was where you really started to see his gifts, and then the spelling was how he was able to share and bring things to light, and then the spelling led to the being the divine messenger. So I love how it was all put together. So yeah, we spoke to, like, those were the three main themes, and I know it suggests a deeper meaning, and you said that he came up with the title of the book, so he wanted people, I'm guessing, to know that there's so much more to him and to all of the non-speakers and spellers out there than the world knows or sees.
Yeah, I think it's a great title. And it speaks, it's for all of our kids. Like, they are very underestimated, and there is more to me than meets the eye for so many of our spellers that they can all relate to that.
Yeah, no, I agree 1,000%. So, what do you find were like the most compelling parts of writing the book? Just learning about his gifts, being a divine messenger, or was it more the spelling? Like, what was the most compelling to you as the mom?
Well, the spelling, first of all, was every time we spelled, I was just blown away. Like, I'd call them Trevor stories. My friend that got us into the piano and also into the spelling to communicate, I would call her after every time we'd spell, and I would just say, "Oh my gosh, I got a Trevor story for you." And I was always surprised, and she was too. But she's like, oh my gosh, you have to." She even said, "You have to write a book about this." And so that was the main thing, like just all the things he knew. When we started getting into like the prior knowledge questions during spelling to communicate, it's like things that they know. I didn't know all the things that he knew and remembered. Like, I could ask him stuff about things that happened when he was little, and he would remember things. Even his vaccine injury, he explained what it felt like and that he remembered it. And it was just so fascinating that he was in there this whole time and none of us knew it, and how intelligent he is and how good at math he is.
I
And
share that with my son. My son has an incredible gift for math, and we found that out through spelling. He can actually see patterns back, like he can see, he will know what day of the week someone was born on based on if you just give them the date. Like, so for example, my birth date, and then he was like, "Oh mom," he spelled, "That's a Thursday." So
oh wow, that's so
so
cool.
so then we went through, like, I know exactly how you feel, because then you're like, I have to tell everyone, this is so cool.
I
And
know.
he started, just we went through everyone in the family and friends, and he just kept getting the day of the week right. And I'm like, this is incredible.
That's
So
very cool.
yeah, so can relate.
Trevor remembers like everybody's birthdays too. Like, I didn't even know that he knew everyone's birthdays or and what sign they are. Like, oh, mom, you're a Virgo and you were born August 28th. But I'm like, he was there for all those birthdays. Of course, I remember everybody's birthdays. Why wouldn't he? Like,
I think it really speaks to how society needs to shift. We all need to be presuming competence with these children, who are now, a lot of them, turning into adults, because they have so much to give and share with the world. And a lot of times, the school systems or workplaces just kind of want to put them in a corner and be like, maybe you can do a sorting job or this or that. But now we're seeing what's awesome is they're getting college degrees, they're capable, they're finishing high school, they're going to be meaningful, workers. And what I love is that they're not going to be, tax recipients. Some of them have the ability to be tax paying citizens now because of spelling. So I love it. Yeah, so the book's been out for a little while. Have you guys received any reactions or feedback that you felt is really meaningful?
oh yeah. So it came out in April, and I'm just starting to get out there and to promote it because I just wanted to share his message. This is his book. I just am the scribe for his book, is how I look at it. But I've gotten a lot of feedback from people who've worked with Trevor in the past and just see his brilliance and, feel a little bad. Like they didn't realize they didn't know what they didn't know.
Yeah. Yeah, you
But
went.
now it's like they see that there's so much more to these kids and they could look at him totally different, like I do. Like I see him as a different human being than the other Trevor that I knew that didn't have any way to communicate. I've read or had a lot of people email me or message me that read the book and thanked me, thanked Trevor. It's just life changing and it just stays with you. And we've been invited to do some spelling actually, there's an autism conference down in San Diego next April. We've been invited to be on the spellers panel with Dawn Marie.
How cool. Yeah.
So we'll see if we get down there. I'm like afraid to fly with him, but we might have to take a road trip. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, it could be a fun road trip, and you never know, they might surprise you. My son, we've flown to the East Coast and back, and I can remember feeling that, like, oh my gosh, is he gonna be okay? And then he ended up just absolutely loving being on the airplane. But I do know what you mean, because there's so many things that can trigger, like the sensory, and it can be very overwhelming. And now the airports make you do so many silly things. so
Mhm.
so
Yeah.
I totally understand. So, I'd love to get into a little bit. I know that, the book does touch on, spelling to communicate can still be a little bit controversial. And then also, hit Trevor's gift of being a medium. I don't want to spoil the book, but if you could, just touch on that a little bit. I'd love to have our listeners learn more about that.
Yeah. So the third chapter is devoted to, I call it the divine messenger, because since he started to learn how to spell to communicate, he started first riding a horse almost 2 years ago. And he was riding a horse called Blackjack. Well, the first year, he rode a couple other horses, but then they got Blackjack, and he totally clicked with Blackjack. And I would ask him, "What did you experience today when you rode Blackjack?" And he would tell me about their conversations. Like, Blackjack and I talked about this. We talked about my autism. That's why I don't talk much. He sees how smart I am. I see the real you. Like he would say things like that. But then when it really got real was when he told me that Blackjack was sad because Buck died, which was another one of the horses there. And Trevor had ridden Buck 3 times the year prior. And no one told him that Buck died. So I was like, "How did you know that? Did you hear us talking about it?" He said, "No, Blackjack told me."
That's
And I was
great.
like, "Okay, this is totally happening." And then I would tell people that worked there and they loved his stories. They just saw him as a completely different person. They're just riding this horse and he's got a completely different experience going on than what we can see from the outside. And I mean, they're doing a lesson, so he's doing, whoa, doing different tricks and going around cones and things like that. But the whole time he's got a whole conversation going on with Blackjack. Then another horse died that was right next to Blackjack named Sully. And we went to visit him because it was a week off and we'd always just go visit him and say hi. And he didn't turn around and let us pet him like he usually does. But Trevor still could talk to him even if he wasn't riding him. He'd still telepathically talk to him. And he said, but Blackjack was grieving because Sully died. And I was like, no one told him that.
That's a
And
huge.
he also knew that the director of the program was pregnant with triplets.
That part was incredible. I was like, no way. Like, he sensed all of that. What incredible intuition. That is really his gift.
Yeah.
That
And the horses must know too. Like these are just amazing animals. So the horses know this is going on. So they also are more than meets the eye. They're communicating with each other telepathically, as well as with people that are, sensitive, like Trevor. And then, so that was the start of the divine messenger part. But then I started asking him things, and he would know about things before they happened with people passing away. So we go to healing centers like the energy enhancement system, the EE system, and then another one called the tachyon chamber. And when he's in there, he goes into another state of consciousness and talks to his angels, he calls them. And he would name them. Like I'd say, who, what did you experience today? I saw my angels. Who did you see? And he would always name people in our family that have passed away, like my dad, Grandpa Lambert, Grandpa Hirsch, Uncle Ricky, and Darren, who was my late husband, who he never met. He talked about him all the time. Like, and then one day I asked him, because he died 3 years before Trevor was born. And I said, how long has Darren been one of your angels? And he said, since before I was born. And I said, so you like had a past life together? And he said, we've had many past lives together. And I said, anything else? And he said, he's my number one protector. So it just brings this whole other realm of consciousness to what he know. It's like you chose to come into this life knowing that he was going to be your protector and that you were going to have this life that was going to be difficult and you were going to need help from your angels. I mean, it just is mind blowing. And
I,
then my,
I
go
find
ahead.
it to be mind blowing. And then, yeah, and then also your sister. Yeah. So
My sister passed away during the writing of the book in November, and he saw her, talked to her, and the day she passed, Trevor said, spelled, we had all these robins show up in the backyard, which we've never had. And we are from Wisconsin, and you always had robins back there, and we live in Nevada. So all of a sudden, there's like 30 robins out in the yard, in the bath, bird bath, in the tree. And I said, I told him, Auntie Kim's with the angels now. Can you talk to her? Yes. What does she have to say? And she said, I'm safe and something like that. And then I sent the robins to mom. And we just like fell over. Like, how did you know that?
must have felt shivers come over your body. And, that's part of, I don't know if you can see the butterfly in our logo. So the story behind that is that, Melinda, whenever, shortly after her mom passed, she would see these yellow butterflies so the yellow butterfly symbolizes that, from time to time we'll be out, doing things and we're like, oh, look, there's your mom. She's hanging
Yeah,
out with she was
yeah,
symbolize, her dad and other loved ones. So we felt it was important to put the butterfly into our logo. And my name also, Vanessa, means butterfly.
oh,
So yeah,
perfect.
we had to. It was natural. So I
Yeah.
loved that story about the robins. And then you have other ones in there too. And then I also found like the ability to hear and feel the music and then to perform, like that was incredible to me too. And the spelling, I mean, the spelling just launches our children, right? It just changes everything for them. So yeah, so do you guys have anything else in the works? Because I'd love to continue to learn more, and I know our listeners would, about Trevor's gifts and his life, and as he continues on with the gift of mediumship and as a budding author.
Yeah, I can see us doing a part two because a lot of things have happened since I ended the other book, but it's like you have to end it at some point. But there were some really amazing things that have happened recently that are not in the book. So I think at some point, maybe in a few years, we'll have a follow-up book.
Oh,
But
very
yeah,
cool.
there's been so many neat things. Like we don't even do lessons anymore. He's just an open speller, but if he at some point in the future wants to learn how to use the keyboard, maybe we'll do some lessons and do the keyboard at some point, but he loves the laminate board. I mean, 26 letters is all you need.
I
So,
think I agree with you. We went back and forth, like very similar, kind of story with our son, where it was regressive one year, and then he just lost all of his skills. And what's interesting too, and I don't know if you delve into homeopathy or different things, but we have been trying so hard to do the MMR clearing remedies on him, and that is such a sensitive spot for him, and that's how we know that was even confirms even more, that was the moment everything changed for him, to be a vulnerable infant and then to go through that. So that remedy, has, so I maybe, my son Cormac could get with Trevor, and maybe that, he could give him a little bit of insight as to how to work past that. Because I can tell that Cormac is really struggling to get past that MMR clearing. We are
yeah.
stuck on these remedies, and our homeopath said, I've never seen anything like this with trying to clear out that injury. But We also too, I think 26 letters, I agree with you. We actually have never gotten past the actual, just regular letterboard and number boards. But to me, I don't care, because if this is how he has his 26 letters, it's how he has his 26
Yeah,
letters.
definitely. It's less motor planning for them.
And that's all they need. And we just kind of, another thing too recently that's come up in our community, I feel like sometimes people get really stuck on my child is a speller, or that they say like I am a speller only. But my son had expressed to me, mom, any way I can communicate, that's what's important. And he said, whether it's through my videos, through my letterboard, through my apps and different things, and I don't care, mom. And so we do embrace also multimodal communication, like whiteboards, AAC. And how does Trevor feel about all of that?
Yeah, I mean, we tried a lot of those things too, and homeopathy also. He even spelled that that was one of the things that helped him the most. And at, that MMR was his
That was
downfall. That 1 year, he got that and the chicken pox on the same day. So, and that's when the spiral started. But he didn't really do well with a lot of those AAC devices in school. Um, so this was just a game changer for him. But other kids are successful with things like that. Trevor used to watch videos a lot too, and mostly it was comforting, I think, for him to watch old videos that he liked when he was little. But he hasn't even done that in a long time. It's like,
I thought that was cool. That was an inspiration for us. But SpongeBob is his thing, and he loved backyardigans when he was young. So he'll bounce off those, and we keep toying with we're big. We're from New England originally, my side of the family. So the Celtics just recently won the championships, and so he'll go in, and he was basically they were playing Dallas, right? So he found a really old backyardigans video that said Texas, here I come. And
oh,
so he knew that the Celtics were going to beat Dallas, so he went to that video.
oh,
Um, and then it was their 18th championship, that 18th banner. So then he found another video that it was a SpongeBob one, and it said 18 hours. And so I said, yeah, dude, it is. It's
oh,
18th
that's
championship.
impressive.
So I'm like, and he has them all categorized. So it's like we toy with, do we pull that from him, or do we allow him to have that as a tool? But
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, I just think you guys are an inspiration. I like Melinda and I always love learning more about different spellers out there and their gifts and how it's changed lives. And so we will in our show notes, we will list the, all about spelling. We'll list about, the healing, other healing things that you said that. Can you say it again? I can never say that properly.
Tachyon chamber and the energy enhancement system. The
Yeah.
energy enhancement system is really blowing up all over the world. There's, I think, over 500 centers now, and
Yeah.
it's healing for so many different things. I love it. And Dr. Sandra Rose Michael, the one who created the technology, she actually did an endorsement for the book, and she's just blowing this up. They're going to be opening more and more centers, but it's so healing for everybody. They did a white paper on seizures, which is why I really got interested in it, because Trevor had seizures and still does occasionally. Like he had one last week in the backseat of my car.
Oh, that's the worst. I've been there. That's so hard. And you just like, you're panicked. Like, what do I do? Like, you just gotta pull over somehow. Yeah.
Yeah, it was in a garage, luckily, but so I mean that's still a thing, but it did help with seizures. That's why I started going to the EE system. But everybody in my family loves going. It's so relaxing. It's just a very healing um, technology that anybody can do. You just sit there and you're in this toroidal field of scalar waves. It's just super cool, and he loves it. I mean, he loves going to healing, anything healing. He loves it.
And I love that now and that's the beauty of spelling, is that now he can express what's helping him, what's not helping him. And that's really been a game changer for us too, to know what's helping, what's not helping, because he can tell us. It's no more just throwing everything at them and hoping something sticks. But yeah, so we'll share that. We love the work of Dr. Gates. So we'll link him as well. And we've really enjoyed having you on, and we can't wait to see what's on the horizon. So if our listeners want to find you, where's the best place for them to find you guys?
My website which my other son designed, by the way.
So cool.
He's the technical one. It's www.laurahirschauthor.com, and it's Laura Hirsch author.com. And I have all my other books on there as well. So it's like a one-stop for all my books I've written. It's got videos of Trevor spelling, playing the piano and singing, a couple interviews I've done already. It's just a really cool website that everything's together.
Well,
And
that's really nice. And I'm assuming they, like all the books, you can find it on Amazon if people want to find it there as well.
yeah.
But thank you so much, Laura. I really enjoyed this conversation and look forward to seeing what's next for you guys.
Yes, thank you so much for having me, and I'll show this to Trevor. I'm sure he'll love
Yeah,
it.
tell him, he's an inspiration to me. So
Well, thank you.